duel here. So let's jump on over to the table as we take a look at round number 5. So, Super Heavy Samurai with Tristan here and Alex on Kashtira. And I think I suppose, the more safer option of this deck list is the fact that I think Kashtira is probably the deck to beat.
I think it's the deck to beat. Even though there are some new decks that have come out in Cyberstorm Access, I think Kashtira kind of remains the deck to beat in most people's minds.
Yeah. And I think the most important thing that we'll check out right now is who won that all-important dice roll. Tristan is definitely going to be in a pretty commanding position if he's won this dice roll here, but based on how the cards are being handled, yeah, it looks like Alex has won and begins with Pressure Planet Wraithoth.
That was a good attempt. I don't know if that's how you say it.
Is it Wraithoth? Wraithoth?
Oh, maybe I just don't know how you say it. Wraithoth.
Oh, you like Visa Starfrost? Name every planet he's been to.
I don't know. He's been to, there's the...
Oh, Drollin Lockbird, that's huge.
Pressured Planet, the lovely, there's the Calm Planet, for the
that's the new
Vanadiums.
one, the Vanadium one.
I don't know what exactly it's called.
Primeval Planet Perlorino is the Tearlament one. And what's the Scareclaw one? Reichheart? Reichphobia? some...
Yeah, that's the Primeval Planet.
Yeah.
What's Perlorino actually called? The Purple Planet.
Jupiter. I don't know. All right. Well, Drollin Lockbird is hitting our Unicorn here, and it's not like game ending against Kashtira. You can kind of put up some stuff, especially if you can put up potentially enough materials with something like Birth to just hard make a Rise Heart.
Yeah, Drollin Lockbird's one of those cards that it can be quite devastating if you start with like Terraforming into a field spell or something like that. If so, Droll can be pretty annoying. But if you start with a Unicorn, it's not the end of the world.
A lot of hand traps coming down here from Tristan. Remember, this is one of the most unique kind of, I suppose, restrictions and conditions we've seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Super Heavy Samurai is not able to play spells and traps. Yeah,
so I guess for your non-engine cards of choice, it's probably going to be these monster effects you can use in your opponent's turn. Maybe a miss there from Alex. I don't see why he didn't use the Kashtira Unicorn to banish a card from his opponent's extra deck. Feels like something you'd want to do.
It doesn't involve attacking or anything, right?
No, it's when your opponent activates a monster effect. All the Kashtira monsters trigger either when they attack or when your opponent uses a monster effect. So
Motorbike gets hit with an Ash
he's doing it
immediately.
now though. But yeah, he could have had two monsters.
Two monsters ripped out.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit of a weird sort of opportunity here because. Okay, he goes for the Springans Merrymaker face down.
I quite like that. I think a lot of players pick that because it's kind of like a 2-for-1 because the gigantic champion Sargas, the only way you can access that is to go through with Springans Merrymaker. So it's like a 2-for-1 and that's the way they get a very big Zeus in play. So I think that's quite a popular choice.
Speaking of popular choices, Fenrir has been almost like the new age Pankratops in a way, as sort of a staple kind of engine.
That ultimate rare Fenrir is so shiny. I'm glad you knew what it was because I was just like, it's just a wall of glitter.
Yeah, so Pankratops is limited to 1, and it was very popular for a while. It's just this sort of like special summon body that you can put on the field, disruption as a form of offense, and Fenrir kind of fulfills that same sort of style of play, I suppose, which is why Tristan's opting to play like the 3-card package of it.
I mean, it does everything that Pankratops does pretty much, plus it just gets you a bonus 1 for free, so...
Wow, okay, so Alex went Ash Blossom on the motorbike here, but it looks like this is probably one of the more frustrating points against Super Heavies. Like, sometimes they've already drawn...
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, this hand for Tristan is just... I think if he could have picked it, he couldn't have picked it much better, to be honest.
Yeah, did he start with Benkai or Wakaushi?
Wakaushi, yeah.
So Wakaushi, Piercer, and motorbike, and Droll.
And 2 hand traps and a Fenrir. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's a perfect hand.
No, it doesn't get better than that. All right, so Pacemaker here is being added, and going second with Super Heavy Samurai. I mean, we talked a little bit about it in maybe like the previous matchups vaguely, just how some of there's sort of like a lot of like varied win. Oh, his 5th card in hand was Driver. That's amazing. We've talked a little bit about like the various win conditions this deck employs, but going second, I mean, it's just you just kind of like hit your opponent.
Just good old-fashioned summon a ton of monsters and attack your opponent for 8,000 damage. I don't think you need to be too fancy when you're going.
Chainlink 1, 2, and 3 here is a big sort of pivotal play that you go off here with on the Super Heavy side, getting the Search with the Soul Piercer, the Revival of the Axel, and Wakaushi rescaling itself.
Yeah, Axel's kind of, it's a little sneaky, because you're supposed to be making a level 8 synchro, but then instead
It essentially just makes Baron, right?
yeah, you just get to make a 10 instead, which can be a lot better. Well, in this case, it's better in this situation than level 8. You can bring back that motorbike.
I just hate how much Baron over sort of shadows my boy Cheng Ying. I love that card.
You love Cheng Ying.
Yeah, I mean, it works.
Cheng Ying is great fun.
Yeah.
I do.
It's
agree.
generic. That's why I think it's great. If you have a deck that banishes, you can trigger Cheng Ying, Ice Dragon Prison your opponent.
I feel like Bestial Disparter is another, and Chaos Angel. We have
Chaos Angel's a jump scare because it doesn't use tuner monsters.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't need to.
There's a lot of 10s. I think that's the point now. I think Cheng Ying's moving down the list,
perhaps. All right, so using the Pacemaker here, special summoning out Scales, and that gives you your level 8 synchro play.
He's a peacemaker.
Is it Peacemaker?
Yeah, he's not a pacemaker. Pacemaker's the what you put to make your heart go at a steady speed.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry, my medical knowledge is obviously not up to par. Okay, Peacemaker is using the effect attribute, and we get a level 8 synchro play with the Scales here. By the way, can I just mention that Scales is like a one-of in the deck, right?
Yeah, it's one-of, yeah.
Yeah, and do you know how old that card is?
We were talking about this earlier, I remember. It's very old.
It's next Challengers.
Give me a year, because I don't know the year of that.
It's one after Duelist Alliance. Please tell me you know that.
No, I'm not very good with these.
All right, well, Tristan takes down game number 1 here with that clutch Droll and Lockbird.
That is enough for Alex, yeah.
So we didn't really get to see the win condition per se, but that is exactly kind of how Super Heavy Samurai plays. You have so many starter engine cards as well as disruption because of those one-card combos. You can fit in so much sort of go second like hand traps, and it just stops your opponent from being able to play.
I mean, pretty much all, there are about, I want to say 12 cards you can draw that will, all do everything, all do full combo, because all you need to really get to is that Soul Piercer, and any card that gets the Soul Piercer is full combo pretty much.
Yeah, and going second, the combo that we discussed quite at length at the start of this round was, the Gimmick Puppet Lob, but going second, you just have so much, I guess, resilience against disruption because of all of these one-card combos, and able to close out the game there with 8,000 damage.
I mean, I think the key there was having the interruption for Alex, right? So, yeah, if you can stop your opponent from, I mean, the board he ended on was very subpar, right?
Yeah.
You don't really want to be
that's what Droll does, right?
Yeah, so, exactly.
Going into this next matchup, I assume that Alex is going to want to go first, of course.
Again, yeah.
Try and set up that catch zero field. For options going first, he's got his own Droll and Lockbird here side decked, which is quite a hard shutdown sometimes for Super Heavies, right?
I'm interested because I think a lot of players have chosen to include John Lockbird in their main deck.
Yeah.
So side decking it, I'm wondering what he sort of doesn't want it against, because obviously we saw there against Kashtira, John Lockbird it's not like, it can be great and it can be fine, but I think it's always just at least fine. So I wonder why he chose to put it in his side deck rather than his main deck.
There's a really sort of big focus on his main deck disruption against the mirror match, I want to say, from Alex's side here. You've got multiple copies of Book of Moon, there's Enemy Controller. These are very sort of, I suppose, typical cards in the mirror match.
Yeah, I agree.
Not opting to go all the way full on with Eclipse, but
they're targeted at the mirror match.
I love Infinite Impermanence is not quite common, I feel like, recently.
No.
It feels a little bit dropped off, but I guess it's the one card that circumvents Talents, which has been quite popular.
That's perfect, yeah. I was just going to say, I love Econ and Book of Moon are just like these ancient Yu-Gi-Oh cards that appear every couple of formats.
Yeah. Really showing your age there by picking that as your favorite, but very well.
Huh? Why?
Because they're ancient.
They are ancient. I don't know how old they are. They're very old, though. I don't know. Book of Moon is...
Enemy Controller was...
I feel like it says AST on it, but I don't know what AST actually stands for.
Ancient Sanctuary, right?
Okay.
Potentially.
Well,
that's like the fourth set or something.
Someone will fact check me.
Yeah, someone
I'm pretty sure Kaiba played it in the.
Yeah, AB up down.
Yeah, it did a lot more things in the anime.
I don't know the cheat code exactly, but let's see if Alex has some sort of a go first combo that can actually play. I suppose he didn't really get to do much on his first turn in game 1. And that body language is not ideal, is it?
Yeah, but some players are like that. That you have like a hand that's not perfect, so you kind of give it a look. But the hand could mean anything, because it's still got a unicorn in it. You know what I mean? Like
sitting there, like thinking, oh god, this hand.
Because it might be that he's got 5 Kashtira monsters, but it's still one of them is a unicorn. I mean, I guess
I'll summon my best starter 1-card combo.
So
Okay.
Unicorn straight into Theosis. I
Do you-
wonder, I guess
is it
this
to play around?
Gamma exactly, right? If that's your only
Ah.
monster and
Okay, that's pretty smart actually. Yeah, Gamma is like very popular in Super Heavy. So activating the Theosis first, then Unicorn, basically, as you said, like allows you to play around the Gamma, which is very good because it negates, but it removes the body,
Yeah.
which is quite strong.
Most of the time when you're playing Cash, honestly, if they destroy your monster, you're just like, that's great, now
usually
my
okay.
board's empty, I can summon another one. But if he doesn't have another one, then this is a very, very nice line to not get blown out by a potential Gamma. I mean, having said all of that, I don't know how many people just Gamma the first Cash monster you summon. Oftentimes people are a bit greedier with it, try and hit the Arise hard at some point.
I was just checking his deck list here to see if he was playing the Zone 5 lock combo, which I feel like has fallen off a lot. A lot of people don't really go for that much, probably because of the prevalence of just how much hand traps are in the format, right?
Yeah, I agree. Like more hand traps. And I think maybe the Kashtira players themselves want to run more hand traps, which might mean like cutting out the last couple of pieces of engine.
So still hasn't used his Unicorn yet, but I mean, I guess all that's missing really is Burf at this stage, and Rafe's off is going to search for another Kashtira here, so yeah, as we mentioned, you know, this hypothetically could be like Lock 5, but not playing the required pieces for it, so we're just going to go for a Scareclaw, and I think it's still like...
This is still a lock 5 if he wants to, for sure.
Is it without... I thought you had to play Ogre for that.
Ogre's like lock even more than 5.
Okay, right.
And
sure.
it also like it depends on like how efficiently you can do it, but I think Alex has drawn like 3 or 4 Kashtira cards, so the more Kashtira cards you do, obviously the more zones you can lock.
Yeah.
So it depends on whether you can make like one Shangri era before you make Diablosis or 2. And again, like depending on how many monsters you have access to, whether you can also have an Arise Hard in play. So.
This is very unlucky by Tristan, by the way. I'm just saying, because looking at his deck list here, the only like go second sort of, you know, equalizing cards he has are in the form of hand traps, and he just has not drawn one.
Yeah, he's got the one solitary Kaiju.
True.
I do.
Only because it's searchable, I
Yeah,
suppose.
I know a lot of people run this
But
Kaiju.
yeah, but like the thing is, you can't search the Kaiju if you can't play.
Yeah,
which might
that's
be the
kind of
case.
what I was thinking. I mean, I get the idea. I don't know how practical it actually is.
Yeah.
He's also got these. He's got the sort of knockoff Kaijus. I don't know what to call them. Santa Claus.
Great value discount.
Exactly. Well, I mean, they're just as good, but yeah, it's typical here to Alex is having to think about which zone to block. I mean, it's pretty typical to block the pendulum zones, right? Against
It's particularly
Kashtira.
strong against Super Heavy because the way that Wakaushi interacts is that it specials itself and places a card from to the other scale.
Yeah.
So if you just lock one, you can never actually resolve Wakaushi because you can't special then place it in that scale. It has to be in the other opposing one. So it's never live against a singular lock on a spell and trap zone, in the scale that is.
It is quite funny because your opponent's running no spell and traps. You're like, what zone should I lock? I know, the spell and trap zones.
Pendulum. Maybe that was like the entire gimmick that the lock was supposed to achieve, was like, hey, one singular spell and trap card is enough to stop Super Heavy of all decks, you know, which is not a spell and trap deck. It's just Pendulum is a discount spell and trap.
Pendulums are great spells and traps.
Yeah.
Well, especially with Kaushi, like it summons a monster, searches a monster without using a normal summon and sets up a pendulum scale. Like,
What does it not do?
that's a good question.
Right.
Beat.
Scareclaw here is special summoned and banishing the Theosis, which is a recurrence for Big Bang. And we've also got Birth here for the extra normal summon of Fenrir. And double Shangri-La looks like the line here, right?
Yeah.
There it is. So this is 6 total, won't it be?
This will be 5, right? Because there's one locked already, and then you're going to banish once for Diablosis, and then twice, and then once. So Diablosis will banish face down on 2 separate instances.
So 4.
So that's 4 more, and there's already 1. So that makes 5.
It's a bit strange though, because you want to hit a scale, right? So what do? You just leave them on one monster zone?
You just leave them on no monster zones, right?
But then they can still use a scale, which I mean, I guess that doesn't really matter.
You
to be fair.
also can't use Wakaushi
Yeah.
if you have no monster zones.
It doesn't really matter. Wow. Zone locking, monster sort of area zone control. I mean, that's a mechanic we've never ever seen before.
It is kind of wild, isn't it? It's quite fun to have something different. And Tristan just confirming here, like, which Shangri-Era's on which zone, because it can make a difference, because sometimes if you have for example, the Santa Claus we were referring to, if you tribute one of the Shangri-Eras, then it's important to know which one you should tribute, because depending on which zones you want to use.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe, as we were talking, maybe if you had like one Shangri-Era targeting each of the spell and trap card zones, then even if one was removed, then Rakaushi would still be not available to use. Alex, he's not made a Rise Heart, which I find a little odd. He could have upgraded that Fenrir into an Arise Heart. But
okay, we're just picking up here that, Tristan unable to see any hand traps, and I guess maybe not even a Santa Claus for this matchup. So just a simple display of the Kashtira zone lock strategy. 5 zones gone, and, well, I mean, how do you play without a monster zone?
It's pretty difficult, especially if you're not running any spells and traps.
Especially
like if you have spells and traps, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, typically, like, even if your opponent's playing like a normal deck that isn't super heavy samurai, I think it's always correct, if you can lock 5, to always lock spells and traps, right? Because Rise Heart deals with a monster, and usually the powerful cards in any deck is generally spell cards. So
yeah, I agree. Like if you were completely blind, but the nice thing about this deck, I mean, nice maybe is mean, but you got to look at your opponent's extra deck, so
you know what they're playing.
You know what they're playing, so you're pretty much never doing it blind, unless like like for the first zone it's blind, but then after that it's you get to see.
Yeah, good point. But we're gonna head into game number 3 here because well, that was a great display of the zone locking strategy, and Tristan gets to go first now, which I think I'm going to be very scared of if I'm Alex.
Yeah. One thing I'm interested in is, like, again, this idea of, like, maybe going second. I know I was talking about it being quite bold, but I think against Kashtira in particular, it's a deck that, like, is quite vulnerable going first. I mean, it didn't look vulnerable there, but, like, a single card like Nibiru, I mean, he's not running Nibiru, so maybe he won't be doing this, but, like a single Nibiru or a single droll can sometimes just lead, Kashtira does this, it's quite unique what it does, is like locking down your opponent's zones, but it doesn't set up interruptions. It sets up an Arise Heart, which is very powerful, but if you can deal with the Arise Heart, then typically you're going to have a good time.
And I suppose that's sort of begging the question, one of the hardest points is Arise Heart is such a, shall we say, pivotal sort of pillar of the format. It's, I feel quite central in what deck you pick and how you deck build, because such a powerful, formidable boss monster that's often indestructible because of attaching Goliath is a macrocosmos on legs and is a banishing face down. It's like, I think that by itself, just virtue of banishing your opponent's monsters, kind of shuts down half of the viable choices you would want to bring to an event sometimes.
I agree. And it's one of those cards that impacts, Kashtira like really impacts people's deck choices and their deck building choices. I mean, funnily enough, you just see these weird, like, people just include 2 of a particular card in their extra deck as well. Like,
yeah, all because of Diablosis.
In Tristan's deck, there's 2 Zeus, which, to me, I can't really imagine you using 2 Zeus in a game very often, but you just need it because you really want it going second against Kashtira, and if you only have 1, they'll take it away.
Just randomly to mention as well, because of the extra deck sort of ability that this deck has, I was looking at some lists recently, and I noticed there was a Mathmech player I saw who was playing 2 Access, 2 Update, 2 Splash, 2 Alimbertion, like for no reason other than the fact that like Kashtira is a deck, Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It's fun. I've seen Kashtira players then go next level, and you just end on like Diablosis Unicorn. So you banish 1. During your opponent's turn, and during your turn, and then when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can take out the second Access Code Talker, and that's that.
Yeah, and then how do you go second? All right, so Alex doesn't seem to have anything for this motorbike here. Let's see if the resolution will be hit by a Droll and Lockbird. It does not look like it, and so Wakaushi will get him off to the races.
Here we're going to see the full glory of the Super Heavy Samurai deck, and with Tristan's unique twist, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see if he pulls off that win condition of the Cyberstein play.
Cyberstein's a very cool card.
Is it? Is it though?
Okay, I mean, I think the way people use it is maybe not so cool, because you normally summon something quite nasty from the extra deck.
5,000 life points. That's,
but I think it's quite
tax.
cool, because it does a lot. It does interesting things. It lets you, summon a random branded monster in a Super Heavy Samurai deck,
Yeah, it does. It for sure just opens up like so much, versatility in what you want to achieve with your combo.
It's one of the
Isn't Wagon one of those weirdest card effects, by the way?
You like it? It switches to defense and
it puts itself to defense like Summoner Monk, and then just puts itself to attack.
Why not?
switch swapping here, but there's a Soul Piercer added from the deck to the hand, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a 1-card combo, so we'll see if Alex can
Oh yeah, this is
I don't know.
this is big combo. This is looking like, so he's going for the Scareclaw. Okay. I was wondering if he was going straight into a Baron quite early, but because obviously the earlier you could make a Baron, the less vulnerable you are to losing to a particular hand trap.
So looking at the deck list of Alex, you know, if we're going for that big expulsion style combo that Tristan has in his list, I think Ghost Bell might work against it.
I agree that Ghost Bell might work against it.
But he's probably going to have a negate for that.
Oh, well, I was just thinking like Ghost Bell, you side it in against Branded directly to deal with this. But this isn't the sort of thing you expect against Super Heavy Samurai.
Well, if you look at the clothes they're wearing, I'm sure they
probably
quite
know each other, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably quite familiar with one another's deck, right?
Ghost Bell, to me, it feels extremely low impact against Super Heavy Samurai. I mean, I know in this case...
But it's for this exact combo, right?
Yeah, it's like a last ditch. And we do see the Ghost Bell.
Oh, wow, there you go. Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, right, like, if you play against a deck that just will win the game immediately, you have to put absolutely everything in,
maybe
right?
maybe it's just like an extra thing.
You know, even if you're stopping, like, a scales effect, like, you need something, right? Because otherwise you will just potentially lose on the spot. You know?
That Ghost Bell actually was pretty devastating.
What did he use it on, the Link one?
The Scareclaw, yeah. Because the Soul Piercer is very much the heart and soul of the deck, I would say.
Let's see how far he can continue off here just through a singular hand trap.
Yeah, so being shut off like that one search, because that one search turns into many more searches quite often.
Yeah.
So we can now make the Baron and not get hit by any more interruptions this turn probably, but Tristan's only got, well, how many cards already? I can't tell. His hands too... he already searched the Peacemaker. Oh, I think he's probably okay. Maybe I was getting ahead of myself thinking this...
I mean, it
this
might not
Ghost
be.
Bell could shut him down.
It might not be the full combo now because of that.
It's not full combo, but he can still. I mean, I don't know what he's going to link into.
Or overlay. I see. Well, can you overlay with the wagon? The scale, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just a level 4. It's not a tuner, so you can't synchro.
Just special summon from the grave. Powerful, strong.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, you can still make Gigant X, I suppose, at worst, and at best, I guess we will see.
That is how that functions in terms of his deck's win condition. But he is having like a think here, you know, so he's not exactly...
He's having a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, that Ghost Bell must have done something very prohibitive.
Must have, confused him at the very least. I mean, at worst, you can make like a Merrymaker as well, but he seems to be going a bit further than that.
He's going to go Genius, all right. Pacemaker
Genius?
searching for, sorry, Piercer for the... I called it Pacemaker again.
Yeah, that's what I was...
All right, surgically crafting his win condition here.
Exactly.
Dr. Tristan.
So he's going to get to search another Super Heavy Samurai card. And then, I mean, I'm assuming he's got another machine, so he can pendulum summon 2 machines at once, which lets him trigger the Cliffort Genius, not Cliffort Scout. It's so cool, like, being able to pendulum summon in addition to doing all this stuff.
He's hard drawing the Cyber stuff. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Okay, well, that has to be game, right?
I assume he has the requisite stuff to make the...
I mean, if he's going for Regulus, it must be, right?
Make the Gimmick Puppet link.
Wow. That is very unfortunate for Alex. Did actually draw a hand trap to help, but it just doesn't look like it's enough here. And here is the branded fusion monster, special summoned for 5,000 life points by Tristan from the extra deck.
The Cyberstein is what, you know, like most of the time if a card has a life point cost on it, you just kind of ignore it and think, okay, whatever, I'll pay my life points and then I'll get what effect I wanted. Cyberstein does make you think, you know, like 5,000, is that enough to like make you worried?
It's not a joke amount.
It's not a joke amount. Like, can your opponent just set 2 secret barrels and...
Okay, so the Gimmick Puppet is just a generic machine link, I guess. And this is what just sends, the Gimmick Puppet from deck to the grave here. So the Link Monster, just Foolish Burial, and that's the lock, that's the combo. So in the draw phase, I guess, of Alex, Tristan just simply activates the effect of the branded fusion, resolves the effect, and gives his opponent the Gimmick Puppet.
Just got to make sure he doesn't have too many monsters in play. We see there Baron just like destroying one of his own cards.
Why does he destroy the Link and not the Piercer?
I guess he just wanted more monster zones.
But it's in the EMZ, it shouldn't matter, right? Must be a reason for it.
Yeah, I don't know what the Link does. When
it's clearly done it for some purpose here, so here we go. Draw phase. And I don't know how many cards really deal with this exact situation. You know what's funny, by the way? Even if you ignore the fact that you're locked from special summoning for the rest of the turn, except for gimmick puppets, how do you like? It's like Mushroom Man too, right? Your opponent gives you a monster in cash tier. What do you do?
It's very annoying being given a monster in cash tier. It's really surprising that like a lot of effects that just give your opponent a monster, just it doesn't do much. It's just like, here's a monster. It's just really annoying for cash tier. The only real line of play that you have through this is if you've drawn cash tier birth, because that lets you normal summon a level 7.
What level is the gimmick puppet? I think it's 8, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can never XYZ with it anyway, but I think it is 8.
I mean, you could make Puppet Master of Strings or something. What's the gimmick puppet rank to?
I don't know. I mean, maybe they'll print a gimmick puppet that requires only 1.
Oh, Giant Grinder. He's 1. Do you remember Giant Grinder?
Yeah.
Wait, is he 8 or 7? No, he might be 7. I'm not sure. Anyway, Alex is trying to play here just with a normal summon of the Fenrir. I mean, that's something, but Tristan does have a line of defense of Baron as a negate and destroy, as well as Regulus as a negate of any card effect.
How many attributes are there in play?
Let's see. Wind, light, earth.
There's definitely
dark.
a dark.
Let's go with like 5.
So the well, I mean, if you need 7 for the. I guess you can't have 7 unless there's a divine. So you need 7 for the Fenrir to attack over the Baron de Fleur, right?
Okay, sure.
5 is enough to attack over Regulus. It's not small, like.
So Talon's picked up off the Prosperity. I don't think a monster has activated in the main phase, however. Ooh, Scareclaw. Okay. I mean, it's not going to be able to be summoned. Is it an effective special summon?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a quick effect. You can activate it in either player's main phase.
Okay. Alright, battle phase attack over the Regulus here.
Is it just bigger than it, or is he just targeting it? It looks like he's targeting
Well,
it.
Fenrir activates on Declaration, right? So
Yeah.
you have to Baron, negate and destroy. And yeah, that's it. That's the end of the game. GG. Oh, he
Oh,
top
the
deck draw
6
for
card.
6. 6 card draw. That's horrible.
That's
Unlucky.
always upsetting, yeah.
Yeah, nothing worse than seeing your clutch hand trap being your 6th card for turn. As Tristan takes down this game with the super heavy samurai deck.
Well, we picked him because this was the cool combo that we were expecting to see, and I guess this time we were not disappointed.
Yeah, well, there's a few ways to play super heavy, and I think this was going to be one of the most unique versions of it. Was